Zombieland, Double Tap. A movie audiobook. Chapter 1. A Decade of Routine. A decade had passed since the four survivors first banded together in the midst of a zombie apocalypse. In the eerie, echoing halls of the White House, Columbus, Tallahassee, Wichita, and Little Rock had found an unlikely sanctuary. Their lives had settled into a routine, a strange equilibrium in a world overrun by the undead. The once grand chambers were now home to these four survivors, who had become a family, albeit an unorthodox one. Columbus, the group's de facto leader, had kept track of time, meticulously marking each passing day on a large wall calendar. The White House had become their fortress, a place where they had refined their set of rules for survival. The rules were etched into their memories, hammered into their consciousness as indelible as the scars of their past. Rule number 1. Cardio staying in shape was paramount in avoiding the clutches of the undead. If you couldn't run, you couldn't survive. Rule number 2. The double tap 2 shots to the head were essential to ensure a zombie was truly dead. The living dead had a nasty habit of playing possum. Rule number 3. Beware of bathrooms, perhaps the most dangerous place in the post-apocalyptic world. These confined spaces offered little room to maneuver in case of an ambush. Rule number 4. Seatbelts. Tallahassee was a stickler for this one. An unexpected car crash was just as deadly as any zombie attack. Their daily lives were monotonous yet oddly comforting. Columbus had grown a tad more confident over the years. He spent his days scavenging for supplies, inventorying their stockpile of weapons, and keeping meticulous records in a journal that chronicled their journey from day one. Tallahassee had evolved into a gruff but enduring figure, fiercely protective of the group. He had transformed the White House into his own kingdom, with a collection of eccentric memorabilia that ranged from Twinkies to priceless artifacts. Wichita and her sister Little Rock had established a semblance of normalcy too. Wichita and Columbus had found love in the chaos, their romantic relationship becoming a source of warmth in the cold, undead world. Little Rock, however, was growing restless. With each passing day, the White House became more stifling to her, a symbol of confinement rather than security. The routines, the walls, and the fear that ruled their lives weighed heavy on her young shoulders. The once close-knit group was starting to show cracks, and Little Rock's yearning for something more was a rift that threatened to tear them apart. As the sun set on another day in the White House, Little Rock gazed out of a cracked window, her heart heavy with a sense of longing. It was a world without rules, and she couldn't help but dream of what lay beyond the decaying walls, where there might still be a semblance of the life they once knew. Little did she know that this growing restlessness would set in motion a new adventure, one that would test their bonds, introduce them to new allies and threats, and challenge their understanding of family in a world where the dead walked. Chapter 2. The Great Escape. The decision to leave the White House weighed heavily on Wichita and Little Rock. Their longing for something more had grown stronger with each passing day, and it had finally reached a breaking point. As they made their secret plans to escape the confinement of the once majestic residence, the atmosphere in the White House became strained. Columbus had become even more meticulous, almost obsessively documenting their dwindling supplies and the shifting patterns of the zombie hordes outside. The intricate map he had created of the surrounding areas became his lifeline, the source of his purpose. And so, it was with a heavy heart that he discovered the note left by Wichita, explaining their decision to leave. His heart ached as he read her words, realizing that she had left without saying goodbye. A feeling of betrayal surged through him. They had come so far together, and now it seemed as though their journey had taken a bitter turn. Tallahassee, on the other hand, reacted differently. He had seen it coming, or at least he told himself he had. His instincts were sharpened by years of surviving in the wasteland. With a gruff sigh and a reluctant nod, he understood that everyone needed to find their own path. So, he decided to venture out on his own. The open road called to him, and he was determined to savor the freedom he'd once known. There was an itch in his trigger finger, and he couldn't ignore it any longer. As Columbus and Tallahassee went their separate ways, the world outside was just as unforgiving as it had always been. The relentless groans of the undead echoed through empty streets, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked around every corner. For Wichita and Little Rock, life on the run was a stark contrast to the safety they'd known in the White House. They moved cautiously, knowing that each step could be their last. The world outside had turned into a twisted playground, a surreal landscape filled with danger at every turn. Meanwhile, as Columbus walked the desolate streets, feeling the weight of solitude, he stumbled upon a sight that was both bizarre and strangely comforting. An ice cream truck, painted in a garish shade of pink and shaped like a monstrous popsicle, stood in stark contrast to the grim surroundings. Columbus approached the vehicle cautiously, ready for anything. Out of the truck hopped a girl who seemed like she belonged in a different world altogether. Madison was a vision of unadulterated quirkiness. Her voice bubbled with enthusiasm, her laughter was infectious, and her appearance was marked by eccentricity, from her clothing to her candy-colored hair. She was the polar opposite of Columbus in every way. Their first meeting was awkward, to say the least. Madison's cluelessness about the state of the world was a source of both frustration and amusement for Columbus. He couldn't believe that someone could survive so long without understanding the most basic rules of survival. Yet, in her naivety, she brought a glimmer of hope, a touch of levity to his world-weary existence. As they continued their journey together in the eye-catching pink monster truck, the odd couple ventured deeper into the post-apocalyptic landscape, forming an unexpected bond in a world where the only constant was chaos. While Columbus and Madison set out on their quirky adventure, and Tallahassee roared down the open road on his motorcycle, Wichita and Little Rock, in their pursuit of something more, were about to stumble upon an encounter that would forever alter their course. In the next chapter, we'll delve into the surprising encounter that awaits Wichita and Little Rock as they navigate the perilous world beyond the White House's protective walls. Chapter 3: The Pink Monster Truck. The roar of the engine echoed through the empty streets as Columbus found himself seated next to Madison in her garish pink monster truck. The vehicle, once a source of childhood joy, was now their ticket to survival in the post-apocalyptic world. Its exterior, adorned with faded images of smiling children and colorful ice cream treats, clashed starkly with the grim reality outside. Madison's enthusiasm was infectious, her wide eyes brimming with a childlike wonder that had long eluded Columbus in this desolate world. She was a paradox, a living embodiment of innocence in a land tainted by death. Her cheerful naivety, while endearing, tested Columbus's patience in ways he couldn't have imagined. As they drove through the ruined cityscape, Madison chattered on, her words like a ceaseless waterfall of optimism. She marveled at the overgrown plants that pushed through the cracks in the asphalt and giggled at the occasional squirrel that darted across their path. For her, the world was an endless adventure, a carnival of wonders waiting to be explored. Columbus, however, was the polar opposite. He viewed every rustle of leaves, every distant groan, as a potential threat. His eyes darted from side to side, his grip on the shotgun beside him tightening with each passing moment. He couldn't afford to let his guard down, not even for a second. Despite their differences, there was an odd camaraderie developing between them. Madison's innocence provided a peculiar sort of comfort to Columbus. Her relentless positivity, though sometimes grating, was a reminder that humanity could still find moments of joy amidst the horror. One day, as they drove past a decaying playground, Madison's eyes lit up with delight. "Stop the truck," she explained, her voice rising with excitement. Columbus, ever cautious, complied, bringing the pink monster truck to a halt. "What is it?" he asked, scanning their surroundings for any signs of danger. "It's a swing set. I used to love swings," Madison replied, her eyes sparkling with memories of a time long past. Without a second thought, she hopped out of the truck and made her way to the swings. Columbus watched as she swung back and forth, her laughter filling the air. In that moment, he couldn't help but smile. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to relax, if only for a brief moment. Madison's antics, her ability to find joy in the simplest of things, offered a respite from the relentless grimness of their reality. As the days passed, Columbus and Madison's dynamic evolved. He became the cautious, pragmatic survivor, while she remained the eternal optimist, her quirky worldview a beacon of light in the darkness. Together, they navigated the treacherous terrain of the apocalypse, facing not only the undead, but also the challenges of forging a connection in a world where trust was a rare commodity. Unbeknownst to them, fate had more surprises in store. The next chapter of their journey would lead them to unexpected allies and dangerous encounters, testing their resilience and forcing them to confront the harsh realities of the new world they inhabited. Chapter 4: A Surprising Encounter. Tallahassee rode his motorcycle through the desolate landscape, his sense of adventure rekindled by the open road. The wind whipped through his hair, and the roar of the engine was like a symphony of freedom. He was a lone wolf, a warrior in a world filled with chaos, and he reveled in it. His journey took him through abandoned towns, past dilapidated gas stations, and alongside countless deserted cars. The world had become a graveyard of humanity, and the constant threat of the undead never waned. But Tallahassee was undeterred. He embraced the danger, thrived in the chaos, and relished every moment of his solitary existence. It was on one fateful day, as he was scrounging for supplies in a long-forgotten convenience store, that he stumbled upon a pamphlet. Its vibrant colors and gaudy font caught his attention, and he unfolded it to reveal an image of an Elvis-themed motel. This was an invitation too intriguing to pass up. Guided by his love for all things related to the king, Tallahassee set off on a detour from his usual path, his curiosity piqued. He revved the engine and sped towards the location marked on the map, anticipation building with each passing mile. As he arrived at the motel, he was greeted by a sight that felt like a surreal dream. The place was a shrine to Elvis Presley, from the life-size cutouts of the king to the jukebox that played his greatest hits. Tallahassee, with his ever-present pair of aviator sunglasses, couldn't help but grin. This was his kind of paradise in the midst of the apocalypse. The motel was eerily quiet, and Tallahassee ventured inside with caution, his trusty sawed-off shotgun ready at his side. He moved through the themed rooms, each one filled with Elvis memorabilia and kitsch. The sense of nostalgia that permeated the place was oddly comforting. And then he stumbled upon her, Nevada, a fierce, resourceful woman who had made the Elvis-themed motel her stronghold. With her leather jacket, hardened demeanor, and a pair of blue suede shoes, she was a force to be reckoned with. Their eyes locked, and an instant connection sparked between them. In a world where alliances were forged and shattered in the blink of an eye, this encounter felt different. It was as if fate had brought two kindred spirits together amidst the chaos. Nevada had been surviving on her own, and the motel was her fortress. Her resourcefulness and strength were evident in the way she had transformed the place into a sanctuary, complete with hidden caches of weapons and supplies. Tallahassee's arrival brought a fresh dynamic to the motel. His brash, fearless demeanor and love for Elvis were like a whirlwind, infusing new energy into Nevada's life. Together, they made an unlikely but formidable team, their shared love for the king and their determination to thrive in the face of the apocalypse binding them. As they settled into the motel, sharing stories and trading survival tips, their alliance became a testament to the resilience of humanity in the darkest of times. In Nevada, Tallahassee had found a kindred spirit, a partner in a world where connections were fleeting and the undead were ever present. Their encounter was a turning point, setting the stage for new adventures, new challenges, and the reaffirmation of the bonds that could form in the unlikeliest of places. But the journey was far from over, and the next chapter of their story would be filled with even more surprises, as well as the possibility of reuniting with old friends on the unpredictable road of survival. Chapter 5: Little Rock's Choice. As Little Rock and Wichita ventured further from the White House, they found themselves traversing a landscape that seemed to grow more desolate with each passing day. The world outside was a harsh, unforgiving place, and the specter of the undead was a constant presence. Yet, the sisters shared a bond that transcended the chaos around them, a bond that had been their anchor in this ever-changing world. Their journey led them to a small, abandoned commune nestled in a forest clearing. It was a place of faded colors, tattered tapestries, and the distant strains of acoustic guitar music. It was a hippie haven, a retreat from the horrors of the outside world. And at the center of it all was Berkeley, a charismatic and seemingly carefree young man who wore the spirit of the 1960s like a badge of honor. Berkeley greeted them with a beaming smile and an outstretched hand. He exuded an air of charm and idealism that was a stark contrast to the harsh realities of their lives. He spoke of love, peace, and the belief in a utopian community known as Babylon, where there were no zombies and the world had returned to the ideals of the 60s. Little Rock, still a teenager in search of her own identity and a place to belong, found Berkeley's vision of Babylon alluring. She was drawn to the promise of a life free from the constant threat of the undead, a life where she could explore her desires and dreams. Wichita, ever the protective older sister, was skeptical. She had seen too much of the world to easily accept such a utopian ideal, and she worried about the true nature of Berkeley's commune. She cautioned Little Rock, reminding her of the importance of family and the dangers of placing too much trust in strangers. As tensions flared between the sisters, they found themselves at a crossroads. Little Rock was torn between the security of their sisterhood and the allure of a world that offered her the chance to be more than just a survivor. It was a difficult choice to make, and it would determine the course of their journey in the apocalyptic world. Little Rock's heart ached with the weight of her decision. Berkeley's promises of a better life and a true community held a potent appeal, but leaving her sister behind was a choice that would haunt her. The stage was set for a pivotal moment in the sisters' journey. Little Rock's choice would not only shape her own destiny, but also test the bonds of sisterhood in a world where trust was scarce, and the consequences of one's decisions were often irreversible. Chapter 6: T-800 Threat. Separated by fate and circumstance, the group found themselves facing a new and terrifying enemy, the T-800s. These creatures were not like the regular zombies they had grown accustomed to. No, these were something else entirely, relentless, cunning, and nearly unstoppable. The world they thought they knew had just become a lot more dangerous. Columbus, Madison, Tallahassee, Nevada, Wichita, and Little Rock each faced the T-800s in their own ways, and in each encounter, the magnitude of the threat became clearer. Columbus and Madison, traveling in the pink monster truck, were ambushed on a desolate highway. The T-800s appeared out of nowhere, their movements precise and calculated. Columbus, usually calm under pressure, felt a chill run down his spine. The rules he had relied on seemed useless against these new foes. The T-800s were fast, smart, and relentless. They were evolving, adapting to the survivors' strategies. Tallahassee and Nevada, armed to the teeth and ready for a fight, found themselves cornered in the Elvis-themed motel. The T-800s were unrelenting, crashing through barricades and windows with an eerie determination. Nevada's eyes narrowed with a mix of fear and determination. She knew that their survival depended on outsmarting these formidable foes, not just outgunning them. Meanwhile, Wichita and Little Rock, still divided over Little Rock's decision to join Berkeley in search of Babylon, faced their own battle. Little Rock, for the first time, felt the weight of her choices. The idyllic vision Berkeley had painted seemed like a distant dream now, replaced by the harsh reality of a world overrun by T-800s. Wichita, her protective instincts on overdrive, fought fiercely to keep her sister safe, all the while grappling with her own doubts. In this dire situation, it became evident that the group's only chance of survival was to reunite. Their individual encounters with the T-800s had left them battered and shaken, but it had also revealed a crucial weakness: their lack of coordination. A series of messages, shared through scavenged radios and handwritten notes, reached each member of the group. The urgency of the situation was clear. They had to put aside their differences and reunite to face this new threat head-on. Columbus, ever the strategist, devised a plan that would utilize each member's unique strengths. The reunion was tense, marked by lingering doubts and unspoken fears. But they knew that they had no choice. The T-800s were closing in, and their very existence depended on their ability to work together. The night of the showdown arrived, and the group gathered in a makeshift command center within the White House, their eyes reflecting a mix of determination and fear. Columbus outlined the plan, emphasizing the importance of coordination and communication. Madison's cheerful naivety provided an unexpected source of inspiration, her unwavering optimism a reminder that hope could be found even in the darkest of times. As they ventured out to face the T-800s, armed to the teeth, and with Madison's quirky commentary lightening the mood, the group moved as one. Each member knew their role, and they executed the plan with a precision that came from newfound trust and unity. The battle that ensued was epic, a testament to the strength of their bond and the resilience of humanity. The T-800s, once seemingly invincible, fell one by one, their relentless advance halted by the survivors' ingenuity and teamwork. It was a victory hard-earned, a triumph that reaffirmed their belief in the power of unity in the face of unimaginable challenges. In the aftermath of the battle, as the dust settled and the echoes of gunfire faded, the group stood together, their eyes meeting in a silent acknowledgement of their shared strength. The T-800 threat had been vanquished, but the ordeal had left its mark. They were survivors, scarred by the horrors they had faced, yet stronger for having faced them together. With the T-800s defeated, the group found a renewed sense of purpose. Their unity, once fractured, had been reforged in the crucible of battle. Little Rock, her doubts dispelled by the loyalty and courage of her companions, embraced Wichita in a tearful hug. The sisters, once divided, were now bound by a newfound understanding of each other's strengths and weaknesses. As they regrouped within the walls of the White House, their sanctuary now reclaimed from the clutches of the T-800s, the survivors knew that their journey was far from over. The world outside was still a dangerous, unpredictable place. Yet, they faced the future with a newfound determination, their spirits unbroken and their resolve unshakable. Little did they know that their next challenge would be one that would test their beliefs, their loyalties, and their very essence as survivors. The road ahead was uncertain, but they faced it together, a family forged in the crucible of apocalypse, ready to confront whatever horrors lay in wait. Chapter 7: Reunion at Babylon. The survivors' reunion was a bittersweet moment. Emotions ran high as Columbus, Madison, Tallahassee, Nevada, Wichita, and Little Rock came together once more. The bonds that had been tested in the crucible of the T-800 threat had held firm, and their unity was a source of strength as they faced the uncertain future. As the group shared stories of their encounters with the relentless T-800s, a sense of urgency settled in. It was clear that their ordeal was far from over. The T-800s were unlike anything they had encountered before, and they needed a plan to deal with this new threat. They couldn't afford to let their guard down. Little Rock's desire for a better life and her vision of Babylon were still very much on her mind. She had hoped that this peaceful community, free from the constant threat of the undead, would be a sanctuary for her and her sister. However, as the group gathered to discuss their next steps, doubts began to surface. Nevada, the tough and resourceful survivor who had taken refuge in the Elvis-themed motel, was the first to voice her concerns. She knew that the world they lived in was not kind to those who let their guard down. She cautioned against putting too much trust in the promise of Babylon, emphasizing the importance of vigilance and self-reliance. Wichita, still protective of her sister, shared her doubts as well. She had seen the way the world could change people, how alliances could crumble, and trust could be betrayed. The idea of a utopia like Babylon seemed almost too good to be true, and she was hesitant to place her faith in such an ideal. Columbus, the group's strategist, was more pragmatic. He understood the allure of a place like Babylon, but stressed the importance of a thorough investigation. They couldn't afford to take chances, not with the T-800s lurking in the shadows. Their first priority was to ensure that Babylon was as safe as it seemed. With a plan in place, the group set out to confront the T-800s and determine the true nature of Babylon. They knew that their journey would be fraught with danger, but their resolve was unyielding. Their trust in one another, forged in the fires of adversity, was the foundation upon which they built their hopes for a better future. As they ventured forth, their path was shrouded in uncertainty, and the world outside remained a perilous place. The survivors were driven by a common goal: to find safety, to protect their loved ones, and to cling to the belief that in a world filled with darkness, there could still be moments of light. The road to Babylon was filled with challenges and revelations, and the survivors were about to face a series of trials that would test their mettle, their beliefs, and their understanding of the true nature of survival in a post-apocalyptic world. Chapter 8: The Battle of Babylon. The journey to Babylon had been fraught with anticipation and doubt. Little Rock's vision of this idyllic community had offered a glimmer of hope, a chance for a life free from the relentless threat of the undead. The survivors had been ready to embrace the possibility of a peaceful existence, a chance to rebuild their lives in a world that had been torn asunder. As they approached Babylon, their expectations were high. The community's fortified walls and welcoming facade promised safety and sanctuary. Little Rock's excitement was palpable, her heart brimming with anticipation. But as the survivors entered the community, a sinking feeling settled in their hearts. Babylon was not the paradise they had imagined. It was a far cry from the utopian haven they had envisioned, and their doubts were quickly confirmed. The inhabitants of Babylon were wary and secretive, their initial smiles replaced with guarded expressions. The community was not the beacon of peace they had been led to believe, and a sense of unease settled in. As they delved deeper into the heart of Babylon, it became clear that the community had its own dark secrets and hidden agendas. The survivors' suspicions were confirmed when the T-800s descended upon Babylon. The once tranquil streets erupted in chaos as these relentless, nearly unstoppable creatures closed in on the community. It was a nightmarish scene, a battle that had the potential to shatter the survivors' last shreds of hope. In the midst of the chaos, Nevada, Madison, and Berkeley emerged as unexpected allies. Nevada's toughness and resourcefulness were put to the test as she took charge of the defense, her determination to protect the community unwavering. Madison's quirkiness, though initially baffling to the Babylonians, proved to be a source of inspiration and a rallying point for the survivors. Berkeley, with his charismatic charm, became a voice of reason and courage in a world overrun by chaos. The survivors, united by their shared struggle, banded together with the Babylonians in a desperate fight for survival. The battle was fierce, the odds were stacked against them, but the survivors were determined to protect their new allies and their vision of a better world. Gunfire and mayhem filled the air as the survivors and their newfound allies squared off against the T-800s. It was a battle of survival, a testament to the strength of humanity in the face of unimaginable horrors. The streets of Babylon ran red with the blood of the undead, and the survivors fought with a fierce determination that could not be extinguished. As the battle raged on, the survivors' bonds were tested once more, their unity proving to be their greatest strength. The survivors had faced adversity together, and now they were determined to emerge from this crucible of battle with their newfound allies, their hope, and their belief in a better world intact. When the dust finally settled and the last of the T-800s had been vanquished, the survivors and the Babylonians stood side by side, their faces marked by exhaustion, but also a glimmer of hope. The battle had been brutal, but it had revealed the true strength of their collective resolve. Babylon, once a place of doubt and suspicion, had become a true sanctuary, a community forged in the fires of adversity and strengthened by their shared struggle. The survivors had found a place where they could rebuild their lives, and the Babylonians had found new allies in their fight for survival. The Battle of Babylon had been a turning point, a testament to the power of unity and the resilience of humanity in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. The survivors, Nevada, Madison, and Berkeley, were ready to embrace their role in this new community, while the Babylonians had found hope in the midst of despair. But the world outside was still a dangerous, unpredictable place, and the survivors knew that their journey was far from over. The road ahead was filled with challenges, but the survivors were prepared to face whatever the apocalypse had in store for them, fortified by their newfound alliances and their unwavering determination to thrive in a world where the undead walked. Chapter 9: Family and Loyalty. The Battle of Babylon had been a brutal ordeal, a test of not just survival, but of the survivors' deepening bonds and their unwavering loyalty to one another. Amid the chaos of the battle, the true value of family in this apocalyptic world became abundantly clear. The survivors had faced overwhelming odds, pitted against the relentless T-800s, a cunning and relentless foe. The battle had been a crucible, a trial by fire that forced them to rely not just on their individual strengths, but on the collective resilience they had built through countless trials. In the heat of battle, Columbus and Tallahassee had found themselves side by side, their camaraderie rekindled in the face of danger. The chaos and brutality of the fight had brought them together once more, their shared experiences forging a bond that was unbreakable. Columbus, once the neurotic, rule-obsessed survivor, had evolved into a leader, a strategist who was now trusted by the group to guide them through adversity. Tallahassee, the gruff and protective figure, had softened in the face of their shared struggles, his loyalty to the group unwavering. Wichita and Little Rock had fought alongside one another, their differences set aside in the name of survival. The sisters had faced their own trials and tribulations, but the battle had brought them together once more. Wichita's protective instincts and Little Rock's desire for something more had found a new equilibrium, their shared determination to protect one another reaffirming their familial bond. Nevada, the tough survivor who had taken refuge in the eldest-themed motel, had become a cornerstone of the group's defense. Her unwavering loyalty to her newfound allies was a testament to the strength of the bonds forged in adversity. Her past as a loner was now a distant memory, replaced by the deep sense of belonging she had found with the survivors. Madison, with her quirky outlook on life and unyielding optimism, had provided a source of inspiration during the battle. Her presence had a way of lifting the spirits of those around her, and the survivors had come to value her as not just an ally, but as a true member of their unconventional family. Berkeley, the charismatic and idealistic survivor, had proven his worth in the midst of chaos. His courage and determination had solidified his place among the group, his loyalty to their cause unwavering. As the battle raged on, the survivors fought not just for their own survival but for each other. They were a family, bound by shared experiences and a collective determination to thrive in a world where the undead roamed. The chaos of the battle had revealed the true value of their loyalty to one another, the strength of their familial bond. When the last of the T-800s had been defeated and the streets of Babylon had fallen silent, the survivors and their newfound allies stood together, their faces marked by exhaustion and determination. They were a family, united by their shared struggle, their unwavering loyalty to one another, and their belief in the possibility of a better world. The Battle of Babylon had been a turning point, a testament to the resilience of humanity in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. The survivors were ready to face whatever challenges the apocalypse had in store for them, fortified by their deepening bonds and their unwavering commitment to thrive in a world where the undead walked. Their journey was far from over, but they faced the future with a sense of unity, hope, and the understanding that in the darkest of times, family and loyalty were their greatest assets. Chapter 10: The Resilience of Survivors. The aftermath of the Battle of Babylon was a mix of relief, exhaustion, and contemplation. The survivors, their newfound allies, and the Babylonians emerged victorious but not unscathed. The streets of the once peaceful community bore the scars of the fierce battle that had raged there. As the survivors took in the scene of their hard-won victory, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the battered streets. They had faced overwhelming odds, confronted a relentless and cunning enemy, but they had come through it together, their unity a testament to the resilience of survivors in a world plagued by the undead. The survivors' bond had been forged in the crucible of adversity. They had learned to rely on each other, to trust in the strength of their familial ties, and to adapt to the ever-changing world around them. They had evolved from a group of disparate individuals into a true family, a tight-knit unit that was greater than the sum of its parts. With Babylon secured, the survivors found themselves at a crossroads. Their priorities had shifted, their understanding of what it meant to survive had deepened, and their vision of the future had evolved. The idyllic image of a peaceful sanctuary had been replaced by a stark realization that the world outside was still a dangerous, unpredictable place. In the aftermath of the battle, they gathered within the walls of Babylon, their faces marked by fatigue and determination. They reevaluated their goals and decided to continue their journey together. The survivors, Nevada, Madison, Berkeley, and the others, had become a family, and their shared vision of a better world was now the driving force behind their actions. As they prepared to leave Babylon, the survivors knew that their journey was far from over. The world outside was still teeming with the undead, with new challenges and uncertainties lurking around every corner. But they faced the future with a sense of unity and hope, fortified by their deepening bonds and their unwavering commitment to one another. The film ended with the survivors driving into the horizon, their hearts filled with a mix of anticipation and determination. The road ahead was uncertain, but they faced it with the resilience of survivors who had weathered countless storms and emerged stronger for it. Their story was a testament to the human spirit, to the power of family, loyalty, and the enduring hope that even in a world overrun by the undead, there could still be moments of light, camaraderie, and the unwavering resilience of survivors. The survivors drove forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever the zombie filled world threw at them, with their bonds unbroken and their spirits unyielding. And so, their journey continued, a testament to the enduring human spirit and the resilience of those who refuse to be defined by the horrors of the apocalypse. The survivors were a living reminder that in the face of unimaginable challenges, family, loyalty, and the unwavering will to survive could light the path through even the darkest of times. Hey there, fellow fiction enthusiasts. I hope you've been enjoying the audio stories on Muted Gamer Fiction as much as I've loved bringing them to you. Your support means the world to me, and today, I've got a small request for you. If you've been relishing these audiobooks and fan fiction tales, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, drop a comment, and, of course, subscribe if you haven't already. Your likes, comments, and subscriptions are like fuel to my storytelling fire, and they keep this channel going strong. I'd also love to hear from you. Whether you've got a particular fanfiction suggestion you're dying to share, or simply want to say hi, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. This channel is a community of like-minded fans, and your input is incredibly valuable. So, thank you once again for being a part of Muted Gamer Fiction. Keep those headphones on, immerse yourself in our stories, and let's continue this exciting journey together. Your support keeps the stories coming, and I can't wait to see what fan fiction ideas you have in mind. Happy listening, and remember to hit those like, comment, and subscribe buttons. See you in the next chapter.